Hey guys, Matthew here, and today I want to bring you guys something very, very special. This is going to be probably one of the most overpowered Path of Exile tool you could basically hope for. What I'm talking about is a chaos recipe tool, which not only helps you with the chaos recipe, which I think is extremely overpowered early in the game, I'm talking in the first few days, it also automatically updates your filter. It covers a filter that is basically good for everything, which will take you from blood aqueducts all the way to fully juiced T19 maps, which I have made to basically show different things at different times in the game. So basically a one-all filter. Now, of course, as you progress through the league and certain things drop in price, you will probably want to edit the filter out and remove some of the stuff. But that is perfectly fine because it is a public filter, which you can easily just load into my my profile on FilterBlade. Go ahead and download the filter. It's called PoE_base, and then you can go ahead and remove some things, for example, fossils as they lower in value and stuff like that. So all the bases. All the links required for both the tool, the filter, and everything you need is going to be in the description of the video. And now let's get right into the tool, how it works, what it does, and how to use it properly. So, first thing you're going to need is to go ahead and download the tool. Once you download the tool, basically you'll get a folder that looks something like this. You can pretty much ignore all of this. The only thing that's important is going to be the setup file because you're going to have to set it up. And then this PoEQL2 here is going to be the file to actually run the application, which I'll go over and cover in a minute. So once you open up the setup file, I'm not going to open up mine because it has my personal information, but it should look something like this. All you have to do about this this page here is input your account name. So for example, mine is Path of Math. The league that you're in. So for example, right now it's standard, but in a few days it's going to be heist. And then your PoE session ID, which is the reason why I'm not showing mine, because your session ID is essentially kind of your login information, except you can't really do anything with it. But still, it is definitely not something you want to give out to anybody. This tool is local, so it's not feeding information to anybody, so you don't have to worry about it. The reason why the PoE session ID is important is because the tool basically requires it to read the API to request certain information, which I'll be getting over in a minute when I actually go ahead and show you guys the tool and how it works. This tab here, tab 0, so the way it works is one of the only requirements that you will need for this tool is basically to have a quad stash tab. I don't think it works without a quad stash tab because, I mean, if you're going to be doing the chaos recipe and you want to be efficient with it, you really don't want to be using like 5 different tabs. You probably want to have just one quad tab, which is a little bit unfortunate, but that's going to be a requirement. The reason why it says tab 0 is basically tab 0 under the API is the first tab in your stash. So it doesn't matter what it's named or anything like that. All that it matters is for the tool to read tab 0 is that your chaos recipe tab is going to be your first tab. If, for example, your money is in your first tab, then you could go ahead and put your chaos recipe tab as your second tab. If you do that, then you're going to want to change this to tab number 1. So there is a little bit of a delay of 1 tab since your first tab is tab number 0. So that's what you're going to be putting here. This you're probably not gonna worry about it because I don't think it's been coded for non-quad tabs, like I said. This here is where the fact that my filter is called PoE_base is because the tool is going to alter the filter by automatically updating it with you manually refreshing it, something that I'll go over when I go ahead and showcase the actual tool and how it functions. But all you need to know is that basically the name of your filter in your document file. So if you don't know where filters are stored in your PC, you have to go under this PC, Documents, under My Games, Path of Exile, and this is where your filters are. So you're going to want to put the filter PoEQL_base in this file. I believe that the tool actually automatically creates this filter if it's not in your things. The thing is, it might not be up to date, so I strongly recommend downloading my filter directly on filter blade, since it will be obviously updated, and then putting it in your document file. So then the tool is basically sent to update this filter here. So you got to make sure to have the right name to the filter. If, for example, your filter is called, I don't know, filter 1, then all you have to do is, type in the name of the filter, because you need to point to where you want the tool to edit. So that's why we need a filter here. That's what's explained here. Now, you can actually put in a threshold of the number of a certain given category that you want to be seeing at maximum at once. So a good number here would be probably around 10. So what that means here is that after getting 10 of a certain item of a categories, for example, 10 different armor chest pieces, it will no longer show them on your filter. So that's why it's called an automatic updating filter, because it stops showing you things that you shouldn't be picking up or that you no longer need for your chaos recipe, because we know that one of the bottlenecks for chaos recipe, or the bottleneck for chaos recipe, is jewelry, especially amulets. But things like weapons or armors are not at all an issue. So we don't want to be seeing them after a while. So you can actually input the number that you want. For this case, I'll be showing you guys with a threshold of 6, so I can show you guys how it works. Because it's easy to go over and under 6, which you'll see in the showcase anyways. Now, the highlight maximum number of sets is how many sets you want to highlight at most at the same time. So basically, since this reads off the API, what happens is that, as you'll see in the tool when I run it, is that it's going to highlight sets of chaos recipe for you. So you don't actually have to look and be like, okay, this is a belt, this is a chest piece, I need 2 weapons, I need a helmet, I need whatever. It's actually going to highlight everything for you. And the reason why we put a highlight maximum set of 2 is that basically in a full inventory, if you place them properly, you can do 2 chaos recipes at a time. There's actually a logic behind the highlighting, and you want to follow that logic, which I'll show basically when I showcase the tool, basically to be sure that you're able to do 2 chaos recipes at a time instead of just 1. Because if you, let's say, start by picking up the amulets or the rings, then the chest pieces are no longer going to fit at the end, and you won't be able to do 2 chaos recipes at a time, which is why there's a logic, which I'll explain. It's basically color coded. Now, this threshold here that I explained about, like, for example, 6 or 10 chest pieces or whatever, it will always ignore rings, amulets, and belts, because since these are typically the bottleneck, we want to see them pretty much at all times. And the filter will only affect items between level 60 and 74, which is the required level for chaos recipe items. Obviously, there's your screen resolution. It doesn't really matter. So long as it's 1080p, it'll work just fine. That's pretty much the explanation of what the tool does and how it works. Now, I'll go ahead and actually run it, and I'll show you guys an actual, visual representation of what it does. So when you go ahead and open the tool, it's going to open up this little thing here called Path of Exile Quality of Life. And this little layout you can put down, you can put back up. It doesn't really matter. The first thing you can pretty much ignore these 2 lines here. All they do is that if you click something in here, it's going to basically input it in highlighted items. So, for example, if you've done a mapping session and your quad tab is your dump tab, right, and you have a bunch of maps in there and stuff, you can just press map, and you see it's going to type in map and tier. And then that's going to allow you to highlight all your maps in your tab, so you can easily pick them up without actually having to manually type in map and tier. So that's just a small quality of life bonus, but that's not really the reason why this tool is so overpowered. The reason why this tool is so insane, I'm going to go over in a minute right now. So the first thing you want to do is click up this overlay thing here. Once you press this overlay, you're going to see at the bottom of your screen this little thing appear right here. Now, you can't actually move this, which might be a little bit annoying, but it's not in a place that's it doesn't hide anything except maybe a little bit of your XP bar. But that's really not too big of a deal. Now, what you can see here, these numbers are basically the amount of each things that I have in my quad tab in my tab 0, which is my chaos recipe tab. As you can see, for example, if I type in ring here, you'll see that if I pick out all my rings, I should have 9 of them. I have 9 of them because the tool says I have 9 of them. So as you can see, it counts properly. if I go ahead and let's say I take out all these rings out of my tab and then I go over to a new zone, which refreshes the API, if I press the refresh button, it is going to basically ask, the tool is going to ask the API what I have now in my stash. And as you can see, it gets updated. And now the ring is basically showing 0 because I have no rings in my tab anymore. I pulled them all out. So the first thing this tool does essentially is it's going to keep track of how many of these different things you have in your tab. Now that might not sound all that powerful in and of itself, but let me go ahead and showcase what it can really do. So now I went ahead and changed zone again and I refreshed it, and you can see these 9 rings are back. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over and bring back up my overlay, and then I'll press chaos recipe. And this is where the magic begins. If I press chaos recipe, as you can see, these little highlights show up on all the different chaos recipe. And this is where the logic that I was speaking of comes in. To properly do 2 chaos recipes in a single tab, the first things you want to press are going to be the white items. Now, once you've pressed all the white items, which is going to be the weapons and the chest pieces, you're going to want to press the yellow stuff. After that, the blue, and finally the green. So by doing this color coding, this logic allows you to do 2 full chaos recipes at the same time. As you can see, if I go ahead and sell all these items, it gives me 4 chaos for a total of 2 completed recipe. If I was to pick up the amulets or the rings before I start picking up the white stuff, then it wouldn't work. I wouldn't be able to fit 2 full chaos recipes in my tab. Whenever you click the little box, the little highlight, it disappears. So that's the first thing that this tool does, or the second thing, I guess, after keeping track of how many items you actually have in your stash. It basically allows you to do very, very, very efficient chaos recipe. Now let's talk about the next thing, which I think is really the big kicker, and that is the auto updating filter. So let's go ahead and I put in the threshold. Remember, I said 6 in my current filter, or sorry, settings. So my tool right now says that I have 9 different helmets. So I'm going to go ahead and pull 4 helmets out of my tab. By pulling out 4 helmets out of my tab, if I go to another zone and I refresh, you will see that now I only have 5 helmets in my tab. That makes sense. So if I go ahead and update the filter now, PoE base, by pressing this, and I drop these helmets on the ground, they will look the same color as you see. It matches the color of the little box. That's just for, you know, the sake of looking pretty, I suppose. And now it's going to show them. If I go back to my stash and I put these helmets back in my stash, now if I go ahead and go to the lower prison, for example, and I refresh, now all of a sudden it says that I have 9 helmets again. I'm going to go ahead and go back to my stash. I'm going to pick up these same helmets, so 4 different helmets, and I'll go ahead and go to another zone without refreshing the tool. Now the tool thinks that I have 9 helmets in my stash. So if I have 9 helmets and I'm asking the tool to show me helmets only up to 6 different helmets, now that means that I no longer need to see helmets. As you can see, the helmets no longer show on the filter. Now they still show on your map and the beams are still there, but as you're clearing the map, you won't see the name, meaning you don't have to pick them up. Now this is definitely something you need to be a little, you need to get used to, because if you press Z, typically the items are just going to disappear even if they should show up on your filter, but don't worry about that, you'll get used to it. Now all of a sudden, since the tool thinks I have 9 helmets in my stash, it is no longer showing helmets because it only wants to have 6. If I go ahead, just to showcase finally, if I refresh again, now the tool thinks I have 5 in my stash and I need 6. So if I go ahead and update the tool, these helmets are going to show up again. This is insane. That is the tool that I was using last league, or in Harvest League, and how I made so much currency from Chaos Recipe early in the league, because it basically does everything for you. All you have to do is put in the threshold of like 10 or 12 or so to be able to do like 10 recipes at a time. And then all you have to do is every few maps you press that refresh button, and then probably also every few maps you refresh the filter to be sure that it really shows what it needs to be showing. Because obviously, if you don't refresh the filter, no matter what you have in your tab, it doesn't really matter because you need to manually refresh this. The easiest way to do that is just to press O under UI, just press refresh. It takes like 2 seconds, and then your filters refresh. You're good to go for another, 10, 15, 20 maps or however many you want to do. And that is basically the tool and how it works. So that's pretty much it for the showcase. If you're wondering my thoughts on the whole, patch notes and stuff, I have seen it. I'll have another video once the numbers are available and updated on Path of Building. So that's probably going to be coming tomorrow. So my thoughts on the changes to Ball Lightning and Glacial Cascade, and if I think they're still playable and all that. But for this video about this Chaos Recipe tool, I first want to say a huge shout out to notaspy, a community member of mine who basically helped me recode this, which I had initially basically done with somebody else. So he came in clutch and actually fixed it because the old version was no longer working. So a huge shout out to notaspy for the help, and a huge shout out to the community, obviously, for constantly pushing for more upgrades and more content, and also for funding me through different means, be it the support that I get on Twitch, YouTube, Patreon. Big thank you to you guys. Basically, this is my gift to you guys for supporting me for just about a year now. So I want to say huge thanks to everybody for that. As always, before I go, I want to say a huge thank you to my patrons. So Mario, Luro, Gaikona, Kfish, Dr. Radu, Scott, Zerashu, Kevin, Cassicus, and Matus. Big thank you to you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the tool. Let me know if you have any issues with it. I'll try to help you guys out. And hopefully you guys have a good league start, and hopefully this really pushes your Chaos Recipe efficiency to the next level. Until the next one, that'll be Matthew signing out. Peace.